Hi, and welcome to A Fern Between Us, episode 9. We are two of the 4 owners of Vivac Winery. I'm Michelle.
And I'm Jesse.
Welcome, you guys. We are tasting our Pinot Noir, which is not released yet. We still have a few months before an official release. So this is super exciting that we are going to allow all of our viewers to get your hands on this before anybody else does. So this is one of my favorite wines, and I'm really excited that you guys are going to get a chance to taste this sooner than later. The other wine is our Nebbiolo, which is another favorite and fantastic, similar in body style, but very different wines. And so we're very excited to taste these.
It's got to be 5 o'clock somewhere.
Yes.
Cheers.
Finally! I don't know about you guys, but this quarantine is taking forever for a day to go by. I want to drink early in the morning. I'm like, whoops, I guess I shouldn't do that. Or maybe I should.
Maybe you should. No, maybe you shouldn't.
These shows would get real interesting.
Right?
So let's do a little check-in. How's everything going? One of the first things that is kind of on the docket that we're kind of looking at is our governor said dine in for restaurants can possibly be June 1st, which means we can start to do some patio service.
So I was actually, as president of the New Mexico Wine Growers Association, I was actually on the line with our... On the line with our executive director, our VP, Jasper Riddle from Noisy Water Winery, and our what do you call that? Our lobbyist
director?
No, our lobbyist to the state legislature, and he and actually we got the head of alcohol and gaming here in New Mexico on as well, and unofficially, that's the date we're looking at. So hopefully, fingers crossed, June 1st, we might be able to start having people back on the patio.
Distanced. We're going to be very careful.
And all the stuff. Well, we should probably be able to do tastings and wine by the glass and all that stuff. So
don't promise more than you should.
And no, yeah, these are not promises. These
are
hopes, but I believe that will probably be what happens, barring something else.
I'm guessing that tastings are going to look really different because we need you to stay at your own damn table. So we're going to seat you and then perhaps have a predetermined flight tasting.
We'll probably do flights and glasses to start. I don't know. We'll
for
see.
that day, this is the flight. You can do a tasting of those, but otherwise, glasses and by the bottle, which is really exciting. We can't wait to have you guys back with us. Oh, it's been hard. It's been a really long time. I've missed you.
How are you doing, check-in wise?
Crazy. I feel like I'm getting crazier by the day. I don't know.
Should attest to that a little bit.
Hey. You're only ever supposed to say nice things, babe.
All right, I'll talk about myself then. Do you guys like my Bert and Ernie haircut?
Bert and Ernie?
Yeah, don't they have the tuft that goes off like that? I think that's Bert and Ernie. I don't know.
Maybe it's Bert, but
Bert.
Ernie had like...
Oh, it was Bert and Ernie was the other way. Okay, my Bert.
I like it. I think it looks good. I don't know.
It's the same one I've had for all of quarantine or lockdown or whatever you call it. So
let's get into the tasting, huh?
Yeah. Pinot Noir.
Start off with Pinot, baby.
Pinot Noir. I think of these two grapes actually in a very similar vein. Most people do know about Pinot Noir. Most people do not know about Nebbiolo here in the States. Pinot Noir is, gained fame, of course, in Burgundy. Burgundy is liter for liter the most expensive region in the world.
The movie Sideways made it really famous.
Even more famous. These days, the Grand Cru's from over there, if you want to get a bottle of it, you have to buy a case of the non-Grand Cru, and 11 bottles of that will get you one, possibly one bottle of the really expensive stuff. And the really expensive stuff is thousands, depending on the vintage, but 1,500, 3,000, that's not like unheard of at all to pay for one bottle of wine.
Oh, for sure. Even upwards of that. But also
at release, that's not even like vintage
aged
stuff. Yeah, that's at released.
Yeah, and the other thing that is really interesting about Pinot Noir is that, is that a lot of the most glorious attributes of a Pinot are not things that most wine drinkers, everyday wine drinkers, common wine drinkers, I don't know what word to use here, are actually enjoying or liking. So it's this really funny thing where Pinot has become this wow, ethereal beverage, and then people spend a lot of money on it, and then they say it tastes like dirt, and those of us that geek out on wine are like, yes,
exactly.
Oh, it's so good. And if it's from New Zealand, I love that it tastes it smells like escargot to me. There's
funny.
Those funky mushrooms and
tar and asphalt and forest floor, real dank. It's got a lot. It has a lot of that, and then some kind of lighter berry notes.
Yeah.
Ours has a decent amount of that as well. I think this is probably our best Pinot Noir that we've ever made.
Which I didn't think that you could best last vintage, which was phenomenal and sold out so fast. We hardly got it on the list and then had to take it off.
We didn't have that much of it, but it also did sell really quick.
But it also, it exhibits some really nice fruit. I would say it's somewhere in between a Burgundy and a Oregon Pinot Noir, where you've got a little bit more ripe fruit.
I think of Oregon as being super jammy, though. Like more so than
California is super jammy.
California Pinots are super, super jammy, or tend to be.
But there's somewhere in between with Oregon and Burgundy where you're getting more of those fruit leaning into a little riper notes than that like kind of tart berry.
So what's the deal with the coupon code?
Oh yeah.
So you guys.
So you can't say it until the end of the show.
Ah.
Yes.
But you're gonna be able to order it.
Watch the whole thing.
You're gonna be able to order it this weekend only, or
so
this
you
week
can
only,
order it starting right now until next Thursday
20 minutes
before
from
the
now,
show.
Whenever we give out the coupon code.
Well, yeah. So get ready. You can start thinking about other wines that you also want to include in your shipment. We are still doing, even though this is a very special release, we are still allowing a discount for 6 bottles, which is 5%, and a full case, which is 10%, and then we pay for the shipping on the full case, which is pretty amazing. So if you want to mix and match, you can totally do that. Throw in some of those rosés that you guys are gobbling up, or you could do a whole case of Pinot. We aren't limiting the number, which is super rare. I don't know if you guys have tuned in or been part of some of these tastings that other wineries are doing, but usually they limit that to, you can get 2 bottles in your shipment, but we're letting you go gangbusters, so.
And this Pinot will be finally released in July, I believe, is our planned release date. So mid-July, so it's 2 months early. Mm-hmm. And anyway.
Which is awesome. So let's jump over to the Nebbiolo.
Nebbiolo.
Which I love getting to taste these side by side because again, they are similar in body style. Just as a little refresher, body style is, if you compare it to milk, that you've got the fat-free, which is light-bodied. You've got the full fat milk, which is medium body, and then heavy cream, which is full body. And if you think of, if you took a sip of each of those, what that would be like for your palate and the coating and how that would linger. So these are both on the lighter side of medium. Yeah. And so they go with so many foods. That's one of my favorite things about both of these wines. But I think it's really a cool thing to taste them back to back.
And especially, so they're lighter in body, but these are 2 of the most complex wines that we make.
Absolutely.
For sure. And 2 of the most complex grape varieties like that anybody probably makes, like there's so much flavors packed in there, and it's light enough that that you can access all of them, all the different flavors, and it's just awesome. The Nebbiolo as well has a bunch of tar. Kind of tends towards kind of strawberry flavors that I get, like some berries, but not like, you know, I don't go like, I go like strawberry as opposed to like, I don't know, cranberries or anything like that, you know? Like what you traditionally think of a berry. I think of more like strawberries for the fruity aspect on this.
You don't think of strawberries as berries? Is that what you're saying?
Is that
one
that
of
weird?
the most pop.
Oh, we might
We
have
lost
mixed
you
you
there
there.
for a second.
I know.
That's okay. We were just arguing about it, Jesse, not knowing what a berry is, but you know.
I know the word berry is in the word strawberry, but that doesn't mean I think of it in the same genre. I don't know why. That's silly. Anyway, Nebbiolo comes from northern Italy in the Piedmont region.
Do they have berries there?
No, of course not. No, of course they do. They're in the Alps. They're at the foot of the Alps. The Piedmont. Anyway,
Did you say north of Tuscany? Because for a
no,
lot of people,
it's way north of Tuscany. It's
an important
it's in
like
northwest.
to see,
Yeah,
you know, because
it's
people
over there
know
by
where
the.
Tuscany is.
All right, it's towards the French border. Tuscany's, you know, down the, you know, I don't know, but yeah. Kind of heading towards France, and they think the name Nebbiolo could have come from the fact that the fogs roll in there in the fall about the time they're harvesting, and Nebbiolo is the last grape to come out of the vineyard, so it's the one of the nebbia, or the fog, supposedly. There's a couple other possibles, but anyway, Nebbiolo. If you've never had it from over there, we highly recommend. There's Barolo and there's Barbaresco. Barolo is like the king, Barbaresco is like the queen. They're both made with 100% Nebbiolo grapes.
But they're two towns that are next to each other, and they use the same grape, different vineyards. And they're one of the really cool things about a Barolo and a Barbaresco is to try those side by side, because what they're trying to showcase is, again, like Pinot Noir and Burgundy, is what is happening in the vineyard and how different they can be, the expressions. So in Barbaresco, they want it to be more feminine, thus the queen, and in Barolo, they want it to be a little heavier, a little more masculine, thus the king. And those
highly
are
recommend both of them.
Absolutely, and those are two of the big 3 Bs out of Italy. So there are 3 famous, really
Touted,
yes, wines, and the third one is Brunello, which is down in Tuscany.
Yeah, and that's made out of Sangiovese.
Yes.
But these two are both made, Barolo and Barbaresco are both made out of Nebbiolo. Go into your local Total Wine as soon as it's open, if it is open already. They are here in New Mexico, but you have to buy some of those as well as buying one of ours to taste them all side by side. You'll see this, it grows really well here in New Mexico. It does so good. It's year in, year out. It's my favorite grape, but it's super fragile. So it, like, if the frost gets down to, if the cold gets down to like 36, it'll frost out. And when none of the other vines did frost out. So like,
which is the same with Pinot.
Well, Pinot is hardier that way, but
known to be difficult.
It's difficult to grow, but it's not cold and stable though. It's one of the cold hardier grapes that there are, but it just doesn't grow and it doesn't produce and it's real fickle.
Gotcha.
But Nebbiolo grows and produces, but it doesn't survive the frost in the spring. So half the years we don't get it, and it's not every other year. It's like we might get it for 3 years and then not get it for 4, So whenever we can get it, we buy tons of it and try to put it in our Divino blend. And
which is also, we are showcasing this wine at the same time so that you can order some of that before it sells out, because it has been on our list for a little while and it is super popular, and we just don't know if we're gonna get it again. So that's why you buy it whenever you see it on our list. I was gonna say something about that. I forgot what I was gonna say.
if you think of it, you can bring it back up later.
Okay, I will. I will.
You don't need a coupon code to buy the Nebbiolo, just the Pinot, and
Yeah.
we'll give that to you in a while.
Yes. And what you're going to do is you're going to call or email our tasting room because it's not even online. That's how it's going to work. And so it's kind of like a password for like a really cool club. Maybe it's like a speakeasy.
Speakeasy, I was thinking.
Yeah.
That's awesome. It's the only way we'd be able to open right now, too. Which
Yeah. Oh, that's what I was going to say is I wanted to push that anyone local should be shopping at Coco Man. They are finally able to be open. They have been
cool.
huge supporters of ours since the beginning.
And other New Mexico wineries. They always have a nice little New Mexico section.
They really do. And
they're doing great.
Amazing wines from all over the world, too. So you have your gamut to choose from. So anyway, I just wanted to throw that out there. All right, let's jump into questions because that's super fun. That's what I look forward to. So number 1, why is Pinot Noir sometimes called the fountain of youth wine?
Ooh, tell me.
This is something that I actually get asked a lot at wine classes that I teach. What's the big deal? They say that, it's somehow special. It's going to, that's the wine you should drink. It's going to keep you young. The reason why is that it's got higher antioxidants because it has more, what's the word?
Resveratrol?
Yes, thank you.
Resveratrol.
Which all red wines have. They get it from the skins. And for some reason, Pinot Noir has more of it. So they attribute this to brain function and all kinds of lowering diabetes. I mean, it runs the gamut. It's amazing what they have linked to what you can get out of red wine and specifically Pinot Noir. So in that way, because it's so good for you, it's really considered the fountain of youth. Like it's going to keep you living, not that it's going to reverse your age, which would be really nice.
Benjamin Button, I don't know. Or wait, did he go? Yeah, he did go. Yeah.
Anything you want to add about the why Pinot's awesome for keeping you young?
Well, I mean, beyond just the fact that it's wine and it's 5 o'clock, that keeps me pretty young, I think. Or, at least in my own mind.
Or maybe you're just acting like an ass and then you're kind of like being young.
Right? Teenagers act like what? And then you act like what when you drink? Well, maybe. I don't know.
All right, so question number 2, how do you taste the bottle for the table? So this is referring to when you're at a restaurant and the waiter or sommelier approaches and you ordered it, now they want you
to taste it.
So they show it to you.
Yeah.
And then they pour a little bit.
Yeah.
About like that pour actually.
Should be about an ounce or 2, ounce and a half. And then you take it, you swirl, you inspect the label. Make sure.
Very important. Vintage date is huge.
Look at you may have ordered something and a lot of times the name is in French and you're like, I think that's that's the one I like, I think, but I'm not sure. And then it comes, you better look to make sure because some of these bottles are only $40 and some of these bottles are $400. And we've been gotten this ourselves where we've okayed a bottle, then they set it down and open it up and all the stuff. And then the bill comes and you're like,
this is an amazing bottle of wine.
And you didn't take the time to enjoy it properly for what you ended up paying for in the end. Just make sure it's just make sure it's the wine that you ordered. Then
including vintage date because that's so important, especially if you're getting into wines from Europe.
Yeah, exactly. Then they're gonna pour you this amount. You wanna swirl it, smell it, and what you're looking for specifically is what's called corked. It's a taint that's it comes from a little bit of carbon in the atmosphere. It's called TCA or trichloroanisole, and it's when a piece of chlorine comes in contact with wine, it produces a very distinct off flavor. That's what you're looking for. You're not looking for do you like this wine just in general or not? Although a lot of people think that would be.
Right, and a quick little thing about that before people get a little lost in how bleach would get in their wine. It's talking about how to clean the cork, because the cork comes from the outside of a cork tree, which is a living thing, right?
It's literally the bark of a cork tree.
So little things are still living in there. So you need those things out.
What happens is it's detectable in parts per trillion, and parts per trillion of everything live in the atmosphere. I mean, we've got several molecules of uranium. No,
I don't know what he's saying.
I can't even think of what it's supposed. Anyway,
you need to rinse these corks, and then the bleach is rinsed out. But sometimes there are minute quantities, and that can, in certain circumstances, then affect the wine. However,
it could be chlorine, it could be boron, it could be several different things, but it all tastes similar.
And we can, jump down a rabbit hole and really geek out and bore the crap out of you some other time. But we do use really, really good corks, so that is at a bare minimum.
I was thirsty again.
Yes. Well, fine. I don't know what happened in the last episode where he didn't drink it all. That was weird. I had to put him in timeout. I thought he had COVID. I don't know. Anyway,
you had COVID.
So, like he was saying, it's not about whether or not you like the wine. It is whether or not it's flawed. And most of the time, once you get really trained with smelling it, you don't even need to put it in your mouth. You just know from the smell that they need to open another bottle. Otherwise, you authorize it to be poured for the rest of the people at the table, and then they refill your glass at the end. So that is proper. They always serve ladies first at the table if they're doing proper service as well. So don't feel like you got gypped if you just have the little bit that you first tasted and smelled and hey, wait! Because I have seen that where people are like, hey!
Did you just say gypped? That's not PC anymore.
Oh! Wow.
Shame on Michelle.
So anyway, let's jump into the next question, huh? Can I mix my wine with juice or other drinks?
Absolutely.
So this is a yes and no for me. So yes.
You can do anything you want. It's your wine.
Yeah, you buy wine, we want you buying wine. That's the end of it. Then when it's at your house, you do whatever you need to. But I do think that there is some amount of, the winemakers worked really hard to craft this incredible art form in a bottle. So ideally, you drink it as it was meant to be. However, there are a lot of times that I have, rolled the dice, bought wine that I wasn't familiar with. I don't know that winery. I expected a certain something from the cues on the label, and then found out that it was definitely not to my palate. And then we have to get creative. And for me, my palate, I don't particularly like very sweet wines. Mm-hmm. Or if they're overly doctored, meaning manipulated with added tannins and things that aren't naturally found in the wine as it was. You could tell that they needed to fix it. I might not want to sit and drink it like this, but sangria is awesome.
Sangria is awesome.
Vodka and fruit with your wine and some 7-Up.
Here's where I go with it. Is it... If you're thinking of it as a pure wine, if you're thinking of it as a wine, then no, don't add anything to it. If you're thinking of it as a drink, add whatever you want. If it makes it taste better to you to do something. So some of those old Burgundies that I was telling you about, the really expensive stuff, people in Japan have been buying most of the best wines out of Burgundy, and one of their main traditions is to put Burgundy and Coca-Cola together, and they'd rather pay, they're paying, it's sometimes $1,000 a glass or more for this mixed drink of Coca-Cola and Burgundy. Yeah. And so nobody, if that's how they enjoy it, I'd say go for it. It's, I mean, you're not going to have wine competitions that are talking about which is the best vintage of this mixed drink out of wine. But other than that, like, wine for its own sake has to be evaluated on its own, and then you can do whatever you want with it.
I love the idea of the next competition I go to, which I'm really sad. There are several competitions that I was supposed to be at over these months that we've been locked down that we got canceled. But I like the idea of the next one I get to go to saying, let's add Coca-Cola to all of these and see which one is the best.
Right? They would love that. They'd throw you out of the room immediately.
Right.
The one thing that is really common, and I even condone and partake in myself sometimes, is a little spritzer in it. In Germany, they call it Spritzig. In Europe, this is a very common thing where they have a wine, they'll water it down with some spritzer. It can be just seltzer water. And
it's always sparkling though.
Yeah, it's almost always sparkling, and it just makes it nice and refreshing. And then you can drink it at lunch, guilt-free. Not guilt-free. It still gets you a little tipsy, but it, you still have all the same flavors, and the water doesn't get in the way of the flavor. It just lessens it or dilutes it a little bit and dilutes the alcohol a little bit. Another thing that's fun is sometimes, we're storing our wines at room temperature. They're too hot. We're drinking these red wines at 75 degrees, and in the summertime, like maybe 80 degrees. That's way too hot.
Put them in the fridge.
Put them in the fridge a little bit, or once you've tried it and tasted it and feel like you've got a grasp of it, put an ice cube in there and make it more pleasurable. It's considered gauche a little bit, but it's
a lot of it,
especially red wines.
Yeah.
White wine, you can get away with it more in public, but either way, it doesn't matter. Who cares what somebody thinks?
Well, that is true. Again, just buy wine. I mean, really, like our wine, somebody else's wine, wherever wine. We just want you to buy wine. But that is a really good point, because you can put. I know it takes some thought, but you can actually put your red wines in the fridge for a half hour before you're going to open them, and it chills it down just a little bit, especially if you live in a house that's really warm like ours. We like to be able to walk around in our skivvies.
So I've got my shorts on, guys. Yeehaw, look at this. I got dressed up for y'all today.
Anyway, all right, let's move on. We've got why is a Pinot Noir from France called Burgundy, and it's expensive, but Burgundy here in the U.S. is cheap and bad wine.
Okay.
This is one that a lot of people are confused about. I hear this a lot.
Yeah. So there's proprietary.
Spit it out.
Proprietary names. So like somebody from Champagne, France, gets to call their sparkling wine champagne. We cannot do that. But those laws did not always exist internationally. So Burgundy means Burgundy.
Fact.
Right, Burgundy.
This happened, and then
exactly. Burgundy means Burgundy. Bordeaux means Bordeaux. Chablis means Chablis. Those are specific place names where a specific wine came from. In the early days, back in the 50s, 40s, when we started making wines here in the States, we started calling them common styles that somebody might know. So Burgundy meant red, Chablis meant white, Champagne meant bubbly. We can no longer do that legally, but there was a lot of people that had, the bigger operations, the Mogan Davids and the Beringers and the Mondavis and stuff like that had big.
Carlo Rossi.
They had been using the words Burgundy and Chablis and Champagne for a long time. So there was a sunset clause on they had 20 years to retire that name, since they had been using it for so long and built a market upon that. So it was the bigger ones, and they just meant red and white and bubbly, but they they were usually the crappier versions. And so
well,
that's
they were
why.
bulk wine, right? So they were often in a jug or in a box. And
Right.
of course, now a lot's happened and come forward with box wines where you can actually get some really decent box wines or large format bottles. But we're talking about like the actual jug. And
Right.
there's a lot of clientele that are confused about that because
Well,
they were raised with Burgundy and it was terrible.
Chianti was another one.
Oh, yeah,
Chianti's
With the
a region,
basket,
you know, and it had
remember?
the when you put the candle in. Yeah, that was called Chianti. It did not come from Chianti, you know.
Well, originally it did.
It originally did, and then we had
And everybody
knockoffs
got
and
excited and thought it was really charming, and then they were like, Psh, we like it. So anyway, that's now we have a port style wine that we can't call port because it's not from Portugal. So
Exactly.
some
All
people
these
ruined
things-
it for everybody.
All these things are falling. Well, I mean, no, it's good. I mean, you can't.
No, it is.
You know, if I make a Cabernet, I can't call it Napa. Like, oh, this is my Napa Red. You know, like that makes sense being from here, but we didn't always do that internationally or whatever. So now those laws are all kind of and more of these situations will happen over time. But that's all right.
Also,
It's a good thing.
a really good
more
part of
specific.
that. A really good part of that is that those regions, part of why they balked so badly about it is that they have restrictions and they are following protocol with not only the grapes that can be in there, but where the grapes have to be planted and how they need to be handled in the winery and the aging and
It's
what they're
very,
aged in.
very, very specific.
To be able to be called a Burgundy is a huge deal. So of course they don't want, a box of wine that's really actually apple wine that's flavored and doctored and
Grown in the Central Valley, and it has a red color, but doesn't really taste like much. And
yeah, and then they're like, yeah, that's Burgundy too, and it's $2 for the box.
right, no, if you buy a Burgundy, it should taste like another Burgundy, very similar to another Burgundy, and they have rules over there that we can't even fathom dealing with over here. That I mean, they're laws. They're not rules. They're laws, and you cannot label something that isn't what's actually in the bottle over there. So that's a good thing.
All right, our final question is, what is your favorite non-Vivac wine and why?
Ooh, all right.
Hard to pick one.
I've got a favorite two wineries. That's not my winery, and I've got. All right, I'll start with that.
Two in the whole world?
I have my single favorite winery. My single favorite winery is Domaine Carneros from. It's in a place called Carneros, straddles both Napa and Sonoma in the mountains, and it's very specific. This is a sparkling house, so they have
Also really known for their Pinot Noirs.
They have a lot of sparkling wines. Like half their list is sparkling wines. Their still wines are insanely good.
And a female winemaker.
And a female winemaker. And I had a white Pinot. We had a white Pinot from there that was like one of the craziest experiences of my life. It tasted like cream soda.
Phenomenal. Only, well, when you say it like that, it
No,
sounds
I
like
know.
it's sweet and
No,
garbage, but
It was not garbage. It was not sweet.
like a white Merlot or a white Zin.
No.
It was not that.
It was not. It was awesome. And then a runner up is Chateau Montelena, just because their Chardonnay is so good to me. But anyway, all their wines. And they had an Albuquerque winemaker when we were there. I don't know if he still is or not.
He's not,
Okay.
but it was the coolest thing when we went, one of the times that we went.
We got to meet with him, and I was like, "Hey, I'm from New Mexico." He's like, "What? I'm from New Mexico." We're
He
like,
started winemaking at Chateau Montelena the same time that Jesse and his brother started winemaking and starting Vivac, which was so cool. So you had this guy who is the winemaker for one of the most famous wineries on the planet. If you don't know about them, definitely get online and Google them and then order some wine from them too. They're phenomenal. But it was the coolest thing to see this back and forth where Jesse was like, I would give anything to be the winemaker for this epic winery. And he was like, I would give anything to have any wine I ever want in any style as an option, because he has to continue making wine in the Chateau Montelena style.
And then,
Yeah.
and then my other,
I'm sorry.
Then my other favorite two wines from a region would be a Barolo and a Brunello from Tuscany. I love those.
I was going to say a Brunello from Tuscany, specifically Alticino, because it was our wedding wine, and it is amazing. It's one of the most incredible.
It was actually the Rosso that was our wedding wine, but
The Brunello we couldn't afford, but actually, in years when they can't make a Brunello, it doesn't fit the standards. Their Rossos are just out of this world, and that was the year that we got the Rosso. So it was a particularly dynamite year for Rosso.
Yeah.
But oh man.
And if you Alticino Rosso, if you can find one of those, they come in around $22 or something like that.
Yeah, they're 28.
28. But it's really good.
We didn't pay that
No.
for our wedding.
We
by the
paid
way,
$6 a bottle.
€6.
€6. It was €6 back in 2004.
Yeah.
It was awesome.
I totally agree with Domaine Carneros, which is actually the sister winery from Tadoget, from Champagne, France. So that's their main house. So they're not
No wonder they're so good.
messing around, you know?
It's spelled Tattinger, by the way, in case you didn't know.
Hey, gentlemen.
You're also thirsty. I'm sorry. I should have poured her first, guys.
And you see why I'm so crabby at home. All right, so those were the questions for today. We are finally going to tell you the damn code. It is Karen, like Karen. KAREN 521, like the date.
Today's date, 5/21.
Right? Karen's so sad. We never talk to her anymore.
Boo.
We had to include her. Hey, she's gonna haunt you. She's gonna come and like dump all the soil on your head in the bed at night. I don't know. I've seen maybe too many movies. I have literally watched everything on all the platforms.
Yeah.
All of them.
So Karen 521.
Yes. So you have from now until next Thursday before the show at 5 o'clock
to order this Pinot.
After that, that's it. You can't call crying. No.
And we'll ship it to you whenever you order it. And other than that, you can't get it until July.
We are going long. So sorry about this. So next week, we are going to do Cab Rosé and Cab. We're going to have a feature on Cabernet, the grape. Talk about it a little bit.
We nerded out this week.
I know. I'm sorry. Send in more questions. Tell us what you're liking, what you're not. Give us some feedback. That's always good. And final thing, I did want to tell you some trivia that I actually thought was really cool.
You got some hot tips, baby?
Shh. So the idea of the cheers, where you clink glasses, right?
Yeah.
Everybody is really used to that being the tradition. It actually started in Roman times, and the idea was because the hot way to kill somebody was to poison them in their wine. So they would actually, and I'm gonna do this to Jesse right now. So you actually would pour wine into one glass and then into the other so that you could...
Hey, COVID. Damn it. This is horrible.
So that you both drank the poison if one of them was poisoned. So it was a trust issue. See, you trust me, babe?
All right. Cheers, guys.
We'll see you next week. Don't forget, Karen 512 if you want some Pinot.
Love you guys. Have a good one.
Bye.